Jessica, the Sweetwater Stitcher, and I am here today to bring you a tutorial on finishing your Seasons of the Heart pillow. I am going to be finishing today the spring pillow, but you could apply this to any of the 4 pillows along with any other stitching that you want to finish into a pillow. So the supplies that you need are your stitched piece, a lightweight fusible interfacing, which I've already pressed on the back of this, a piece of fabric, which I got this piece from Hobby Lobby. It's just a tan check homespun. You need your seasonal tag sign. I have a piece of wool that I'm going to attach on the back because that's how I do my pillow finishing. You don't need this if you are going to leave an opening at the bottom, which I'll explain that when we get to that. You need some crochet yarn. I chose a white color. The pattern does call for ivory, and this is the ivory that I picked up. This is the color. This is the white. So it's the same thing. It's just one is white and one is ivory. And another thing that I had on hand that would also work, depending on what color you liked best, is this is Lori Holt's Chunky Thread, and this is just from a sample pack. And this is, it doesn't have the color name, but this is more of a tan. So you can see this is the white, the ivory, and the tan. So it would depend on what you like. And I did use the white and the ivory on a tag as a sample, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. And you can see the difference. You also need a yarn needle, which I picked these up at Hobby Lobby. You need some scissors, a rotary cutter. I also used a quilting ruler because you do need to measure from your stitched piece to trim it up. A point turner, and this is by Clover. This is my favorite one, and I believe I ordered it from Fat Quarter Shop, but I do believe they have them at Joann's as well. And I'm sure you can order them from other places, but this is my favorite one. And I think that that's all. So the first step is to trim up your stitched piece. And so what I did is I went from the edge of the leaves and I measured a 1/4 inch away. So I lined up my 1/4 inch on my ruler along the edge of the leaves and trimmed. And I did that from the outermost stitch on each side, also lining up the previous side that I had measured, and then I lined up the next side a 1/4 inch measured, and I did that for all 4 sides. Once I had my stitched piece trimmed, I then took my lightweight interfacing, and I have a big piece, and I just trimmed a piece by laying my stitch over it, and then I carefully cut with my ruler around the edges to trim that. And then I did the same for my backing fabric. Is I took my lightweight interfacing, I set it on there, and then I trimmed around to get a piece that would fit on the back. Once I was done with that, I then took my lightweight interfacing over to the iron and I pressed it to the back. And the purpose of that is so that all of your stitches stay in place, and then it also makes it a little bit more stable. Before I put that on there, I still felt like it wasn't exactly flat and straight, and so that helped give it a little bit more sturdiness to it. I did stitch mine on 28 count mushroom Lugana, and my color changes are listed in my floss tube number 5, and I will also list that below in the description box with the information on my stitched piece, along with the supplies that I have in front of me, and any other directions that you might need, or information. So once you have trimmed both pieces, you are then going to take your stitched piece with your interfacing on it, and my backing fabric is a homespun, and it's the same on the front and the back, so I don't need to worry about what is the right side or wrong side. So I'm just going to lay it flat on top of here. If yours did have a right side and a wrong side, which, let me grab some fabric to show you. This is some other bee fabric I picked up today at Hobby Lobby. It has the bees on the front, which is the right side, and the back is plain, which is the wrong side. So you would want to put the bee print facing toward your stitching. And I am going to stick a few pins. If you don't want to pin, you don't have to. It's all personal preference. And I'm going to stick a few pins just along the edge. You don't want to do too many because you don't want to mess up your fabric. But I like to, especially with the homespun, stick a couple pins in my fabric just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And once you're done with that, oops, we are going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch 1/4 inch away from the edge. And I like to finish mine the way that, and I got this idea from Lori Holt, where she stitches all the way around the edge, and then she cuts a small hole in the back of her fabric, stuffs it, and then she covers it with a piece of wool. I am also going to use, along with the wool, some fabric on top of it just to kind of give it a little dimension, and I might end up putting some type of pin or something in there. I haven't decided on that. The other option you have is to stitch and leave about a 2 inch. You could, I mean, if you needed, you could leave 3 inches depending on how much you feel you need to turn the pillow right side or inside out to be on the right side. So I would say between 2 to 3 inches you would leave, and I would leave it in the middle at the bottom. The one thing about this pillow finish, and I am finishing it just like it is in the chart, is that she has rickrack stitched all the way around the edge, and it is stitched on the outside of the pillow. So if you left this open, you would then do some type of stitch to close it up. That would be covered with the rickrack. So that rickrack helps to hide it. I still like to, for the extra stability of the pillow, I like to do where you cut in the back. But that is, again, that's personal preference. So after I've pinned my fabric to my stitched piece, and we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. So I'll meet you over there. All right, now I'm over at the sewing machine, and I have my 1/4 inch foot on. I have just some neutral thread on my machine, and I like to lower my stitch length to 1.5 because when I turn my corners, I want the stitches to be very tight. I do not want to have my corner turner, point turner sticking through my edges. So I make sure to lower my stitch length, and I am actually going to turn it over. I should have pinned on this side because I want to see my stitching to make sure that I'm doing straight lines, which I should by using my 1/4 inch foot. And I am also going to start in the middle at the bottom on my sewing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I like to sew off the edge, and then I will start again off the edge. I also sew over my pins. Some people don't like to do that. That again is personal preference. And the reason I'm sewing over or past the edges and then starting is to really reinforce my corner. I'm gonna pull this pin out. That would be one of the reasons why you should have pinned on the side of the stitching, but I wasn't really thinking that through. Okay, so I have all of the sides sewn down. I'm going to take my pins out and go back over to my cutting table, and I'll meet you over there. All right, the next thing that you're going to do once you have stitched your cross stitch piece to your backing is either you have left a hole at the bottom and you would use that to flip your piece right side facing forward, or if you have stitched all the way around like I did, you're going to pull your stitched piece away from your fabric. That's the first step and most important, because you do not want to cut your cross stitch. That would be very sad, and you do not want to do that. So after you have a hold of your fabric, you're going to take your scissors, and I like to just make a small cut. And then I look, okay, is that big enough to get in there? I don't think so. So I am going to trim this way and this way, and it makes an X. Then I feel like I have enough room to get in because I need to pull the corners towards me to flip it. Before I do that also, I'm going to go ahead and trim a little bit of the corner. Make sure that you are not cutting too close to where you stitched the corner. But if you just trim off a little piece on the edge, it helps when you're turning your corners. Okay, so I've done that. I've cut my X. I'm going to set my scissors over there. I'm going to get my point turner. I'm going to stick my hand inside of the pillow and pull the stitching out. You want to do this carefully because your stitching is on the inside. And obviously you don't want to mess up your stitching because that is the most important part. So what I do once I have it my stitching in here, I just start using my fingers to kind of try to poke out the corners as best I can. And then I'll use my point turner. Oops. See, that's exactly what I did not want to do. So you want to be careful, unlike me, to not poke a hole. And it's hard because you have the cross stitch fabric, which has a lot of holes in it, to not poke through. If you do, it's okay, and I'll show you what I did. It's not, I mean, you can't really even see, so it's fine, but you're trying to avoid that. So you can lay it down, flatten it a little bit, and check. And we will do one last press before we get the stuffing in, just to make it nice and flat. And you just want to try to get the corners as carefully as possible, but you want to try to get them as square as you can. But like I said, once you start getting the filling in, it is pretty forgiving. All right, so that looks good to me. I am going to go ahead and take it over to my iron one more time and do one last press. I'll press from the back just to get my seams pressed down, and then I will be back. All right, I'm back at the cutting table. Once you've given it one last good press, the next step is to attach your seasonal tag. So how I made this is I followed her instructions in the front of the chart, and it says to attach the piece of paper with the words to a piece of chipboard, and then to cut out the chipboard, and you punch holes in the sides to attach it. I chose to make a template on my silhouette machine. I then cut it out of the chipboard, and my piece looked like this. I then made a copy of the page in the back of the book like this, and I cut around the black square. I then glued it with rubber cement on, which is what she recommends in the instructions, to the tag, and I let that dry. And then I used my hole punch, which is the size that she recommends as well. It is, what does it say? A 1/8 inch punch, and it looks like this, and this is the box. It's from Hobby Lobby. And I punched the holes in the sides, and then I had made a copy of the page. I'm not sure if she intended, when she wrote the or put the piece in the back, if Brenda intended for you to cut it straight out of the chart or to make a copy. I personally did not want to cut it off of my chart, so I made a color copy of the last page. I cut out my piece, or I'm sorry, I already said all that. So I made the copy. Then I decided that I didn't want it just to be the piece of paper on the top. So I took 2 different kinds of Mod Podge to see what I liked better. I first used the gloss Mod Podge, which that's this one, and I don't know if you can tell a difference on the camera. It is a little bit shinier, and I think that it makes the black a little bit darker. And that was the first one, and that's actually the one that I am choosing to use. And then the other one is I went and bought some matte Mod Podge, and I put that on the top of another one to see what I liked better. I also tried spraying the top with a Deft clear coat, and I did like the look of this. I didn't think that it made it the black as bright, and it was a little bit hard to spray it because the force of the spray made the little piece fly away. So I felt like the gloss Mod Podge did the best job brightening it and giving it a little bit of a seal. So that's the one that I am choosing to use. So I'm going to position it where I would like it. And this part is a little bit tricky. So then you're going to choose whichever type of crochet cotton that you like. I liked the white for mine. And like I said, there is an ivory and there is this Lori Holt's chunky thread, which is like kind of more of a tan color. And that actually matches my fabric. But I did do, this was just a scrap piece of my fabric, and I was testing how to even put it in the fabric. But I also did, this is the ivory and this is the white. And I'm not sure if you can tell a difference on the two, but this one is definitely, the white is a brighter. I think it matches better with the letters, but again, it's up to you what you prefer. So that's a sample of the two different colors. And again, I bought those just at Hobby Lobby. So you're going to take your crochet cotton, you're going to loop it through your yarn needle. You have placed your tag on your stitching, and you're going to carefully pick it up. You're going to stick your hand inside of the pillow because you want to be able to feel where it is. You're holding it in place. You are going to take your needle. You're going to go underneath of the fabric in the place you want to attach it, and you're going to come up through the hole. You can move this because the needle, and I did test this, the eye is a little bit big to fit through that hole. So I would go ahead and move that and then pull your this through your crochet cotton, and then you can easily just stick your crochet cotton through your tag. And then you can tie your bow, and you can tie a knot here to keep it in place and then tie a bow, or you can just simply tie a bow, whichever you choose. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot for the purpose of, and I'm going to, let's see, do it this way. And I like to just cut a pretty long piece of the crochet cotton because I don't want to have, I'm trying to make the bow and I don't have enough. And then I'll just trim off the edges however long you want it to be. And if you look, here's her picture. I mean, that's pretty similar. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to take my other piece and I'm going to do the same. This side is a little bit more tricky because the first one you don't have, you're not going necessarily through a specific place. You can choose where you want to put it. This one, you need it to go exactly through that same place, and you want to make sure that your tag is straight. And I will say it again, once you put the filling in, it is forgiving, so you have a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm gonna hold my pillow Make sure this is as straight as I can get it. This is tricky. I'm going to flip it to stick again my needle in, because I want to grab some of the fabric, because I need my crochet cotton to come through and be, I need both ends to tie my bow. So I need it to go underneath of my stitching, and it goes through the interfacing as well. And then you're going to do the same. You're going to tie either a knot or just tie your bow straight on there. And then we will be ready to stuff our pillow. And if anything was to happen to your yarn, you could always take it out and re-knot it, re-tie it in the bow. I mean, it's attached after the fact, so it's not glued on or anything like that. So you could always, if you didn't like either where you put it or how it's looking later on, you always could change that, and it would be no big deal. So I have my 2 pieces. And another reason I ended up choosing the white was because I have white in, I believe I used bamboo. I'll have to go back and check. But I feel like that kind of ties, the white crochet cotton ties into that along with, again, the words. So now I'm going to go ahead and stuff my pillow. I like to use polyfill. Some people use crushed walnut shells. Let me check what, I know she wrote in here what she used. Let's see. She says to stuff the pincushion firmly with your stuffing of choice, and she used pincushion pine. So, I'm not sure where you get that, but that's what she used. I'm using a simple polyfill from, I got this at Michael's. They have it at Joann's, at Hobby Lobby. I believe they sell it on Amazon as well. But I'm going to just go ahead, excuse me, and grab a big chunk of it. And I'm kind of going to take some of it, fluff it a little, and then I'm going to stick it all the way in the corners. And I like to start, I'm going to stuff to the middle, and then I'm going to turn and stuff to the middle, and then I'll finish in the very center. But I'm going to, and this I got from Vanna Pfeiffer. She says to layer your stuffing. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff all the way in the corners. And the polyfill does come with I think it's kind of like a chopstick looking tool. You can use that to help push your stuffing in. You can also use this back portion of the point turner to kind of help you stuff it in there. And this is completely personal preference, how puffy you like it. If you like it more flat, I will show you what I end up doing at the end. I try to get as much in the pillow as I can to make it as dense as I can make it. And you also want to push down a little just to make sure that you don't have any clumps, and it also kind of helps you to see where you might need a little bit more stuffing. So you're going to continue doing that. That looks pretty good on the one side, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the other. Stuff my filling all the way to the corners. Oops. gonna get some more stuffing. Some people like their pillows very stuffed. Some don't like a lot. So you just kind of have to play with what is your style. What do you like? I like to get a decent amount of stuffing in there because I feel like I just like a more stuffed pillow. So I will turn it over and see how it is looking. I like that. I think I might want to put a little bit more. Actually, I think that's pretty good. And I'm going to make sure to, I want to make sure to get it so that the edges are pretty stuffed, so they'll lay a little bit flatter and straighter. And then another thing I like to do, and I mainly like to do this after, is I like to kind of push down, and maybe there's a little bit too much. That kind of helps. You can also do that whenever you're finished, and I feel like it helps kind of flatten it. You don't want it to be too flat though, because then it's not gonna sit nicely in your bowl. Or if you were putting it on a tiered tray, you want it to have a little bit of fluff to it. So I feel like that looks good. Be a little more here. Let's see. Because I'm going to set it, and I'm also still need to attach the rickrack. So at this point, I have a hole in the back. So what I'm going to do is I took just a neutral thread. I have a needle. I'm going to, there's a little hole right here. I'm going to stitch this together very loosely. So I'm just kind of going to go back. I'm trying to stay as close to the edge as possible, to the middle. But I'm going to try to get this as closed as I can. And I don't really want a lot of puckers in my fabric, so I'm trying not to pull too tight, but I do want to get it closed a little bit. You can kind of go back and forth. That will help when I attach my fabric and wool to the back, so that I don't have to worry about the pieces that I cut open not staying shut. So you can see there's really no rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. And I just kind of go through, and I don't even tie a knot, but it is sewn together lightly. And no one's going to be throwing these pillows, so I'm not really worried about it getting messed up. The next thing is you can either use the same fabric, you can use a coordinating. I found this, so I have a tan check. I found this is a Lori Holt Be Basic. This is, I don't know what the actual fabric is called, but it has like a tan circle, and I thought that matched without being too matchy. So excuse me, I just cut a square that I felt like would cover the hole, and then I have some pinking scissors, and I did the edges. So I will attach that with some fabric glue, and then I will also attach my little piece of wool. Now, I happen to have this wool in my stash. I am going to order some more from Primrose Cottage Stitches. They got, they have some wool packs of small pieces to do this very thing with a finish. And I'm going to order some of that from them. I will link that below. I haven't checked to see if it's in stock still, and I really hope that it is because I need some more. But this piece, I feel like matches the front, which is why I'm going to use it on my spring pillow. I will probably use the same Lori Holt fabric on the back to cover each, but I will use a different color of wool. And you could stick it in the middle, you could stick it off to the side, and really the purpose is just to give it something a little extra on the back. So I'm going to attach that with some fabric glue. That's E6000. I don't know where it is right now. I'll have to find some, and I will attach that on the back. And another thing that you can do is if you want to take a piece of floss, you can do a blanket stitch around the wool to give it another little piece of dimension. And I might do that as well. But so this is the pillow. The last thing to do is to add the rickrack around the edge. And I have not gotten my rickrack in. I ordered it. It says it's on its way. But I do have this Lori Holt rickrack to just show you what you would need to do. So you would take your rickrack and you can measure around your pillow to find the size. This is just an extra piece I had. And if you did cut an opening at the bottom, you would want to sew that shut first. So you would have your opening at the bottom. You then would place your rickrack right at the bottom to start. And you can use a pin to stick it in to hold it in place. And you can go ahead and pin your rickrack down around the edge. Actually, this rickrack would match and look quite cute if I do say so myself. Let's see. So you would just pin it down, and the point of the rickrack is for decoration and also to cover your seam. So you want the middle of your rickrack to go right in the middle of your seam. So you would pin this all the way around your pillow until it covered the whole thing. And then you would go back with your needle and thread. You would start here by tying a knot, attaching, and you want to find a thread that matches. So my rickrack in this case is white. I want to find white thread. The rickrack I am going to attach, which is what Brenda Gervais calls for, is a, what is it? A natural, I believe, or what is it? Oh, linen rickrack, 1/4 inch. So I'm going to find a neutral color that matches my rickrack, because you're going to carefully go in and out, attaching the rickrack by hand, sewing it. You can also just sew along the edges if that's easier. And then you would have your pillow with your rickrack sewn all the way around the edges, and then you would be finished. And your piece of fabric attached to the back. And then you could set it in a bowl, in a tiered tray. I am probably going to put mine in my dough bowl I did not get my other wordplay done that I wanted to put in the bowl, but I will find some other little things to put in the dough bowl with it. But I love this pillow. I love how it turned out. And I will post a picture once I get the rickrack sewn on and it gets here. And I'll show you this glued on once I can find my fabric glue. And one more thing that you can do with your patch is along here, sometimes people will stick a safety pin with like some charms, or you could stick some of the Just Another Button Company. They have pins. You could stick one of those through there. Maybe with a butterfly on it or something having to do with the season. Or you could simply just put a safety pin through here just as a little extra decoration. You could sew a button on the back. There's lots of different choices. But that is my pillow finishing tutorial for my spring pillow. And I look forward to seeing your Seasons of the Heart pillows finished. And I hope that you will join me and my friend Holly, Mrs. Jones Stitches, in our stitch along, stitching these. And I also joined on with the Brick City Stitcher Sal, and they are a local needlework shop to me that they are also doing a stitch along. And I did start my summer pillow. I have a very small start, but I did start on April 1st. So stay tuned for my colors and how that comes along. I look forward again to seeing your pillows and your finishes, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.